And there is, I think, on all of your shows, this overall sense of optimism, which is especially, I mean, Parks and Recreation is like a very optimistic show. I mean, it's like just but within that, there is all this like weird craziness. And is that, you know, is that just the nature of comedy, or is that something about where we are now, that we need that hope?
Well, I think that's what, that we're in a time, it seems like, where a character, like my character Andy, is relentlessly optimistic, and also just so angry and sort of troubled. And I can't speak for the audiences of America, but I can say for me, part of the reason why I love playing Andy is that optimism, and I love movies that share that, movies or TV shows that sort of share that feeling that, God, we're a bunch of idiots, but there's hope, you know, and there is like intrinsic goodness in some of these characters. I think Will Ferrell does that beautifully, like these dumb kind of bumbling characters that mean well. I mean, that's what Anchorman was in a way, and I think that's it. When you mix into the soup all that sadness and pathos, and there's heartbreak in these shows, and there's there really is some heavy stuff. There's loss, there's death, there's you know, social anxiety going on. But if you just sort of keep this little undercurrent of hope and optimism, that is, I think, what audiences and people, I just speak for myself, like you kind of grab onto, and then you can actually enjoy a lot of the pain and still chuckle about it.
I also love, and I find with your character, and I think this character Amy too, that they all seem like people who believe that their goodwill and their efforts are about to change things tomorrow. It may not be happening today, but in very different ways. Like, I love having watched Andy over the last few years, like, no matter what heartbreak comes your way, you know tomorrow you're gonna find love. Like, I see your certainty that perhaps these other people are misguided about it and they've made wrong choices, but you're such a believer in love, and these other people don't understand what's happening, but you're there to serve the country, and Amy's about to change the world. Maybe it's the other people who are crazy, and perhaps it could seem narcissistic to some, but there's genuine belief in service and kindness and compassion, and so I love that, you know, depending upon how you're looking at some of these characters, you might perceive them as caught up in self, but there's something very beautiful about kind of believing that you have goodness to offer, and maybe you're just not with the right group of people at this party.
It's sort of like Charlie Brown in the football, isn't it, really?
So great.
Yeah.
This time it will be different.
Hope springs eternal.
That's right.
I think on our show we also, and this appeals to my personal philosophy, we feel that in this sort of information age where the more facile you are with devices and social networking, the cooler you are, and you know, the sort of more highly regarded you are by all the people that use those networks, and it can lead to a very cynical, I think, social point of view where people are too cool to take chances or be vulnerable because they might be slapped down by someone, by their nemesis on a comment board, you know. And so I think Mike Schur, our creator, definitely likes to keep a sense of optimism and cheer in this time when everybody is sort of making fun of everything and sort of putting themselves above optimism. And we find that it serves us really well. It allows you to still make jackasses of ourselves, but with a sense of hope and love. So we all are lucky enough to end up making comedy that also can make you cry sometimes because it's touching. Not me personally.
Well, no, actually, because you're not funny either.
I find this whole thing very moving.
But your
There's a lot of
character
power
has
in
gone
here.
from being like this very, kind of intimidating to you're like the sweetheart of the show.
Shut up.
You are. It's like whenever there has to be a moment of illumination, we all turn, where's Ron? Is he going to come set whoever this is first, set him straight? What was that like to sort of, because when you started, you were sort of the dour, here's Amy Poehler bubbling away and here's Ron Swanson keeping everybody down, and now you're like,
No, that's still how it is.
son, let me tell you how it is.
Oh, I think when any show is created, you start with this person will be the protagonist, this person will throw rocks at the protagonist, and eventually, as you flesh the characters out, you find out that the person throwing the rocks is also a person and has feelings, and I think we found that it was really enjoyable to pit Ron's sort of working philosophy, his hatred of government, against his strong personal loyalty to his friends. They get a lot of mileage out of, that he wants to shut down the program, but he wants to support the people that are creating the program because he admires them. So they get a lot of mileage out of that. But I would appreciate it if you would continue to consider me dour.
Okay.
And hard. I'm a hard man.
I'll try to do that. Is it important for you guys to love your characters, or do you have to admire? How do you connect? And are there things about each character that you hate? Are there?
I mean, I'll speak for myself. I always feel like it's very important to have a kinship with the characters I play, even if I have to really search for good within them. I think it's important to come from that place because I hear acting is truth. Someone once said that to me. So it's good to feel like you. Yeah.
I told you that.
You did. That's right. That's
He
right.
sat down. He said, "Son."
Because I was like, I was talking about schmacting, and Nick was talking about this thing called acting. And I was like, I like that. So, but I do think it's very important to care about who you play. I mean, with my character in this program, I said it. This talkie that I'm doing, he's very, very much a part of me. I'm a lot like Mitchell in many ways. I think I have a little bit more of a sense of humor than he does. He's way smarter than I am. He's a lawyer. I didn't take college, as I said. But I think that there's a lot of truth within that character, and I think I have to love that character because he is so much me.
Anything about him that you hate?
I sometimes wish he could relax a little bit, and I certainly can see things in other characters that would annoy me if I was in an actual relationship with that person. Not talking about Eric Stonestreet, but if I was in a relationship with someone like Cameron, I think there are moments that I'd be a little, it'd be taxing.
Unlike any other marriage.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
What about you guys?
I really envy Andy in a lot of ways because he's so passionate and expressive, and he does wear his heart on his sleeve, and he makes bold sort of statements of love. He puts himself out there, and I am a much more reserved, kind of protected person, and that's, I guess, what and even the anger that Andy struggles with and sometimes bursts out of, I am a little bit more repressive, I think, with some of my own, anxieties and so forth. So I sort of love that, and even the parts of Andy that are really annoying or weird, I just think he's a guy that we were talking about that optimism and that sort of intrinsic goodness before. That's what I latch onto as this guy's good. And he's in denial half the time, and that's fun as an actor to just play somebody who's struggling with truth. But he's cathartic for me in certain ways. I think he's a very sort of heightened and maybe in some ways exists in a more honest way than I do in the real world.
Where did you go to find the first female vice president?
Went inside my heart.
Sixth grade, when you thought?
Well, I mean, you know, it's a
President.
very, I think it's not so much the first female vice president, it's just the role of vice president. I approached it not thinking about it gender-wise.
Interesting thing, because they don't really, she's not established. Is she as the first female vice president? Have we
We
established?
don't know.
We don't establish her as the first
Yeah.
female vice president.
Right,
That's
so it's
interesting.
not been I didn't approach it like that. I approached it as somebody who was highly ambitious and who is in a powerful position, who came from great power in the Senate and then was sort of fell backwards into this position of vice president. In fact, the backstory is that she was a real contender to be the nominee for her party, but then wore some sort of hat on the campaign trail that played badly, and
so often
was
happens.
photographed eating a corn dog at another particular stop, and things started to unravel.
This is backstory?
Yeah.
The corn dog
The
is a
corn-
slippery slope.
It is a slippery slope, and let me tell you, it didn't work out well. So highly ambitious and you know, given this sort of so-called powerful position and finding herself being quite powerless, because, you know, I think we can probably all relate to this to a certain extent. I certainly can. The idea of being ambitious, and there are a lot of parallels to being in show business and being in politics, a lot. And you can certainly draw down from that area. And the other thing is that I would say that ambition is also a slippery slope, and it can get in your way, and it does for her, and I understand why. You know, I get it, but that's really fun to play too. You know,
And desperation.
desperation
Yeah.
is it's just a
That's like the fuel of this town, but also DC in so many
in
ways.
so many ways, in so many ways. So, yeah.
Well, and she does seem to feel that she will be the first vice president. That will mean something. That, you know, that she will.
Oh,
redefine
she doesn't
the
feel
top.
it. She knows it. Yeah, she knows it.